Reflections on the fear of judgment. It is what disconnects, it is what prevents us from feeling like that we are in this together, right? The feeling of separation. Really, every time you're pointing a finger at someone else, there's three pointing back at you. And it's being willing to explore this and to realize anytime others may judge you, it may very well be that the other is not accepting themselves in that way. One way I see it is when we're judging other people, it's because I'm not allowing myself, for example, maybe to choose that for myself. Maybe because the way I was raised, I was never allowed to. And therefore, there's this projected relationship with witnessing, like people that hate on people who have money or who have fame or who have beauty, like all those pieces, right? So for me, it's about being able to catch myself when I am in self-judgment, being willing to be aware of why I'm afraid of being judged by others, right? Reflecting on one's own cultural upbringing and the differences, if, say, you're an immigrant, or if you've lived in other cultures or is from another culture and you live in the West or you live in the East, wherever you may live. So to realize that that's what is preventing authentic expression. And authentic expression is what will lead to a true sense of beingness, a true sense of connection with yourself, and that will lead to a true sense and experience of connection with others. And connection is really the most healing and uplifting and beautiful thing, experience, way of relating. So it's being willing to take a look at that. And I know for myself, earlier in life, there was so many layers of judgment, so dense. Everyone I was saying, junior high or high school, everyone I was interacting with, those interactions was completely filtered by judgments, right? Once again, I don't know anyone else's experience, but for me, it was certainly like that. And it's the willingness to do the work of examining the fear of judgment and being able to see how it is the self-judgment that is projected out to this fear of, being rejected, being condemned, that has brought us right forward into this generation upon generation. It's like because it's in our brain. It's the way our ancestors lived. If our ancestors, if they were shunned or exiled, they were dead. And although we don't live in that kind of a reality, right? Parts of the way our mind and brains and our nervous systems and this intense, deep condition and lineage of what it means to be tribal, to be a species of being that is most reliant on connection with others. So it's absolutely fascinating, right? We live in a time now where you can absolutely be isolated and still get by, but to be fulfilled and to feel loved and be able to love, it is for me about working on this particular fear, doing the work with yourself, right? Of, transmuting, transforming, changing, and noticing whenever, I am in judgment, whenever I am afraid of being judged by others. And so I can allow myself to move through it, right? And to be discerning about which situations and which examples, which instances, and why that's happening. So I can discern what I can do about it And for me, it is always the willingness to create space, to allow noticing, allow awareness. And in that space, then the choice, right? Our own authentic realization of what's needed in that moment, in that situation, in that relationship, it would be best to allow for connection, acknowledgement, right? First and foremost with self, and then with the other. And it is the practice of, well, how we are choosing to disconnect from ourselves by holding on to judgments or maybe expectations of ourselves, and then being afraid to be judged or not meeting the expectation of others that may very well diminish us because our survival instincts was previously completely reliant on the good opinions of others in order to survive. But I feel an evolution is very much needed. And for me, it always starts with oneself. Yeah, those are some of the reflections that come through, right? And just being willing to examine all the different people that we're afraid to be judged by, right? What they may be taught or conditioned with. Think of racism, like any ism, right? Sexism, ageism, etc. All the isms, so that for me, I can notice whenever I go into that and be willing to do the work with myself. And as I do that work with myself, my experience is I'm less and less afraid of being judged by others. And as I more fully express myself, truly the realization that I've always been free. I did all of it to myself based upon how I interpreted it, and I projected that into my reality my whole life. And doing the work of noticing it, I can realize that the choice of freedom is always there. And yeah, I invite you to do that work with yourself, to realize you have always been free and you are free to make your choices, and do this work with yourself of connecting to yourself deeply, right? And letting go both the judgment of self and the fear of judgment from others.